Welcome back to Stoppage Time here at Pints and Punditry, and today I want to talk a little bit about Bayern Munich and the struggles that they're having. They lost 1-0 to FC Augsburg this weekend, putting them fifth now in the Bundesliga table, which is a place that they're just not used to being. And you can see the panic sort of setting in the front office and the management team to the point where, manager Julian Nagelsmann is now on the hot seat, which we can argue at a different time the validity of that and whether that's deserving and what role he plays in their struggles. But the issue is that now that Thomas Tuchel is available, right? Chelsea got rid of him. There's a natural, hey, predecessor, we've got somebody to replace you. We got this well-accomplished, big-name German manager who's out there and available, and it's always easier to fire your manager when you've got another big name lined up, particularly for a big club. I don't see how this is a good fit, though. Now, Thomas Tuchel does have a reputation of coming into big clubs and not being overwhelmed by them, check, and taking talented rosters, letting a fire under their ass, and getting the most out of them, check. So I get it to that extent. But Thomas Tuchel is not a long-term fix. I think that's been well established. He's a churn and burn kind of guy. He comes in, lights a fire under everybody's ass, pisses off everybody, players, management, other coaches, trainers, everybody, and then burns out, overstays his welcome, and is gone within a couple years. And he did it at Dortmund, he did it at PSG, and he did it at Chelsea. So why would Bayern think it's going to be any different? Now, maybe they're in such a state of transition with Robert Lewandowski leaving, and it's a new era that, okay, let's just get the most out of the talented roster we have and see what we can get, and we'll figure out the future later, which, okay, I guess that's a plan, but it's not a plan I love. Thomas Tuchel is not a long-term solution. After the last game, when they did not score, and I'm going to touch on their scoring in a bit, Nagelsmann refused to point blame or point fingers at individual players, which is the right thing to do. A manager should not, only in rare circumstances, should he be calling out particular players and saying, it's this guy's fault. And he didn't do that. And that's a good thing. Thomas Tuchel would have done it. He would have done exactly that, and it only further divides the locker room. So you've got a guy who is managing the problem, managing the pressure, managing the media very well, and they're threatening to fire him for a guy who struggles to do exactly that, despite his other talents. And Thomas Tuchel's not a bad manager, but he is not a long-term solution. The problem with Bayern right now is their goal scoring, and you want to look at it and go, wait a second. They're leading the Bundesliga in goals. They are leading in goal differential. They're sitting there with 19 goals scored and a 13-goal differential, both tops in the table. But if you take away 2 of their games, they haven't done shit. They scored 7 against Bochum, and they scored 6 against Eintracht Frankfurt, right? That's 13 of their 19. If you take those away, they've only scored 6 in their other 5 matches. And that's why they're losing games. They lost 1-0 to Augsburg. And that's where they're missing Robert Lewandowski. It's real simple. And that's not Julian Nagelmann's fault. It may not even be the management team's fault. He wanted to leave. And there was a whole issue with why he wanted to leave and why he was pissed off with them. And that's a story for a different day. But he left. And they didn't replace him. And they wanted Erling Haaland. And they weren't going to get him. But they weren't able to find a strong, just bona fide world-class striker on a team that needs a bona fide world-class striker. And that's your problem. And Thomas Tuchel's not going to fix that. Frankly, he had one at Chelsea, and he couldn't get it done. And so, that's not going to be the solution either. So maybe he comes in, lights a fire under their ass, but it's not a long-term solution. Running Nagelsmann out of there when you didn't properly equip him to be Bayern Munich, if the goal is to be Bayern Munich, you didn't properly equip him to do it, and now you're trying to blame him. And basically the rest of the Bundesliga has caught up a little bit. They'll be okay. Bayern's still going to be a top 4 team. They'll probably still win the Bundesliga. They shouldn't be afraid of Union Berlin and Freiburg and Hoffenheim. And, so they shouldn't be afraid of these teams. They shouldn't be unable to overtake them. But they got their work cut out for them, and they got some work to do. And yes, if they want to come back and win this season, maybe Thomas Tuchel is the best guy for that. But they're going to be right back here where they are now, debating the validity of their current manager in a couple years if they go with Thomas Tuchel. Thanks as always for joining us on Stoppage Time here at Pints and Punditry. This is Total FIFA Career Mode.